All right, guys, here comes another juicy subject. So, today we're going to be talking about Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. And this is a fun one because there's just so many variables, right? Like we have Conor McGregor and he hasn't fought in like 2 years. And even when he did fight, I mean, he didn't look bad in his last fight against Poirier. He actually looked very good. He brought back the karate stance. He brought back the kicks. He was fighting like old school Conor McGregor. He looked great in that fight. Now, I think he did get pieced up in a couple exchanges in the boxing, and you'll see that because there was a couple exchanges where Conor threw a jab. Dustin actually countered him on a few different occasions to the point where Conor actually he went in for a clinch because he was getting pieced up boxing. A lot of people don't really believe that. They think Conor is this boxing god or something. And again, Dustin Poirier, he has great boxing. He's a great fighter, great durability. He's not really known for submissions, but he has subbed quite a few guys. He actually is an MMA fighter, I would say. Conor McGregor to me isn't an MMA fighter. I think he's kind of like a specialist striker. He does have very, very underrated grappling though. Watch him against Khabib. He lasted like 4 rounds. I mean, look at Justin and Dustin. Both of those guys, they got finished. I'm pretty sure in the second rounds. I think late in the second rounds, whereas Conor went until like the fourth. Conor also stopped. He very impressively stopped a couple takedowns in the first round. Whereas, Dustin and Justin, the minute he shot in, it was kind of game over for him. So a lot of people, they look at him like, he's just a karate guy with some boxing. He doesn't really have any grappling. He's a very good grappler. He defeated Max Holloway just on grappling, just takedowns because he ripped his ACL, I think, in the first round. And then he just grappled him in the round 2 and round 3. People don't really think about, past Conor. He actually was an MMA guy just with a striking preference. But now I would say he's mainly striking. All of his grappling is mainly anti-grappling. I really hope he stays that way too, because at one point with his fight with Dustin, he went in for a guillotine, and then by doing that, he didn't get it, which like that unless you are like a guillotine specialist, that submission almost never works. I mean, look at Dustin Poirier. That guy always goes for it, and maybe his finish statistics might be like in the 5% maybe, but most people don't get it because it's the most basic, it's the most basic submission. But I mean, just think about the variables here. So we have that out of the way, right? Conor, literally his leg broke in half. I think he actually he didn't break the bone. I think he actually fractured it. The whole bone broke. So he has that going. He has that going on. He's got the titanium shin bone, as they say, and then he also hasn't fought in 2 years. No one's gonna give no one talks about like the mental side of that, but ring rust is a massive thing. If you don't think that's real, I would say go find some amateur, go find an amateur promotion and go get your first fight. And no matter how good you are, you'll realize that by stepping in that arena, there's something going on in there where you just cannot fight the same. There's just something happening where the punches are just a lot faster than they normally are. You just aren't able to move the way you are. You get exhausted faster. There is a mental factor to fights that is absolutely immense, and most people don't even know it exists because obviously they've never really competed in that way. But can Conor overcome? Like, will his leg shatter? Will he? Will he be able to overcome the pressure? Just imagine the pressure, all the press conferences, everything going on with that. I mean, you really had to have a next level type of mental strength to not allow any of that to cause you an issue. I mean, look at Colby Covington. I mean, he came off a similar layoff, and look what happened to him. He didn't even look like the same guy. I don't think it was necessarily just age. I mean, he didn't really look tired in there too much. But it was just like, it was kind of like there was something with him where he just couldn't, like, there was like something disconnected. Something just wasn't like that flow you have when you're in the zone. It can only happen from hours and hours of training. But a lot of it's mental training. It's not really being physically there. It's mentally being there. is really the difference. And can Conor McGregor overcome the ring rust, the leg injury, and what kind of guy is he fighting style wise? Because unfortunately or fortunately, his style is always fluctuating. Every time we see him in the ring, he's either boxing McGregor or he's karate McGregor. But it's been so long that we've seen like karate McGregor that we don't like. What is that? Like, a lot of the training videos I've seen, he's doing a kind of like boxing karate McGregor type thing. It's very similar to kind of like a Peter Yan style where it's very defensive focused, very pressuring, a lot of really good punches, but he also throws a lot of kicks, spin kicks. But for the most part, it's mainly a boxing base with like karate as like a secondary kind of backup weapon. I don't think that'll work for Conor. It could with Chandler. I mean, Chandler doesn't have the greatest of chins, but it could potentially work, especially if they do fight on if there was a rumor that they're going to fight at 185. I think that's all mental games by Conor. But we do know that Chandler has been finished in his last few fights. So there is a chance that, both guys are at very equal playing fields. Chandler, he's had a lot of time to recover, but do you ever really fully recover from wars with Dustin Poirier, with Justin Gaethje, with Tony Ferguson? I mean, almost in every single one of those fights, he's been dropped once, if not twice. He's been finished in some of them. That's a lot of damage. Especially at his age. He's in his mid-30s now. Conor's getting close to that. He is younger. I think he can make one more run. He did talk about how this is his final comeback. At least that's how he's marketed it. But what can Michael Chandler do? I guess we'll look on the opposite side. He is a wrestler with kind of not a boxing base. He's got this interesting, it's more of a wrestling and mixed with athleticism. He will use a kind of karate in and out style, and then he'll shoot in with his athletic power, and then fire a power shot. Specifically his like a left straight. Or is he right-handed? I'm not really sure, but either way, he throws that straight. He likes to even double it up. He'll throw it all out once and then try to double it up again. So he really likes those power strikes. He is a wrestler, but as you can see, I mean, his probably worst flaw is that he's an entertainer. This is the type of guy that will sell his soul to the people, the crowd. He will lose a fight if that means making it more entertaining for the crowd. You could see this when he fought Dustin Poirier. There were multiple times where if he wanted to be boring, he could have won that fight. He could have went in, he could have gotten takedowns, he could have stayed on top, he probably could have just ground and pounded him, made it really boring. He could have won that fight pretty easily. Justin Gaethje, he had moments in that fight where if he wanted to be boring, he could have won that fight. Now, he beat Tony Ferguson, but of course he wanted to do it in an entertaining way, and Tony Ferguson's, his chin was basically gone at that point. But even a weakened Tony Ferguson was able to drop him at one point too. So could he take Conor McGregor's power, especially that Conor has been injecting substances, and from the research I've done, when someone does a substance that starts with an S, that doesn't necessarily just leave the body. There are actual permanent improvements that stay in the body. So I think I saw a study where you actually get a 30% increase in like strength that stays with you after it's no longer in the system. It could be even just permanent, like after using it one time, there could be permanent changes in the body. So Conor McGregor already had probably the most powerful left straight in MMA, and now it could be potentially 30% or even more powerful. Can Chandler take multiple of those? Could he take one? Probably. He's a pretty tough guy. But again, there's so many variables, right? It's like, can he do it? Well, he did take a lot of wars, but Chandler has also had like 2 years to recover. Conor has had a lot of time to recover. He's probably been doing everything you could probably do with all the people around him, with all the money he has. He tends to be a very open-minded guy, so he probably tries a bunch of stuff too. I'm assuming that this is going to be the best version of Conor. The only downside, I think, to this fight is that Conor McGregor surrounds himself with a lot of yes men. I don't think he's the type of guy that likes criticism. Like if you were in his circle and you were like, hey, what about this? I think he would act like, I know better. which is a problem because you don't always know better. There's always going to be someone out there that's going to see something that you can't see. And, he may think, oh, well, I'm going to do this cool boxing style and boxing's cool. And he looks up to a lot of boxers because of the gangster stuff and all of that. But there's just a lot of factors. I mean, whoever wins that fight as well, like if Conor were to go in there and get knocked out by Chandler in the first round, I mean, oh my gosh, I mean that's going to be a worser loss than the Khabib loss. Just because again, he's going to promote the fight, he's going to talk, he's going to do everything. He's a lot smarter than Colby though. There's a lot of people that no matter what he says, people will like be diehard Conor fans no matter what. He's good at like alienating some people, but not other people. So there'll be that. But if he knocks Chandler out in the first round, we're talking. Just imagine the ego boost. Just imagine the ego boost on the McNugget. His ego is going to be so massive. He's going to probably be calling out everybody in every single division about how he's going to, I'm going to go back down to 145 and then I'm going to go back up to 155 and then I'm going to go up to 170 and then I'm going to try 185. It's going to be bizarre. I don't think any of us want that. We kind of want it, but we don't really want it because it's just going to be like, it's just going to be such a pain. But to see him get knocked out would be worse because then that would be the end of an era, essentially, whether he accepts it or not. But yeah, this is going to be a very interesting fight. There's a lot of factors involved. There's going to be a lot of drama, and I'm very excited for it, and I hope you are too.